this is my journal club review for January. The article I chose to review is called Addressing Occupational Fatigue in Nurses, and it's by the Journal of Nursing Administration. So the reason I chose this article, or why I was attracted to it, because I was kind of interested in how nurses in specific are affected by fatigue, since I'll be working with them directly in the future. And I just want to see what the current research was. And I came across this article through the Biological Rhythms Canvas page. So the aim of this article is to describe the current state of fatigue risk management systems to address nurse fatigue in hospitals. So they're pretty much looking at what's in place to address the fatigue. And then the research questions they have two. The first is, what is the state of the adoption of evidence-based policies, the foundation of fatigue risk management strategies, or FRMS? And what is the current state of preparedness defined by the presence of antecedents for change of hospitals to adopt FRMS? And this is important because nurses can easily get fatigued too, and this can affect patient care and administration of medications, and overall just happiness in that population, especially in nurses. So for the methods, the article said that they used a sequential exploratory mixed methods design, including a survey of nurse leaders from across the United States. And they conducted semi-structured interviews with nurse leaders to understand their perceptions on the need to address nurse fatigue. The interviews occurred at 2 hospitals in the Midwest. And just to point this out, this might be a possible issue with the validity, since it only occurred at 2 hospitals. They only questioned 2 people in a specific area of the country. So going forward, this would be good to ask these same questions throughout hospitals, throughout the rest of the country, even different parts of the world. So that's the methods. So I'm going to talk about their conclusions and then their recommendations. So first, they concluded that implementing FRMS in hospitals requires an organizational change. Second, nurse leaders recognize the consequences of fatigue to patients, nurses, and healthcare organizations, which suggest a need to address fatigue. So that's pretty much saying that the nurse leaders are aware, but there's nothing in place. And then the next thing they say is, although there is clear evidence that fatigue impacts staff and patient safety, findings from this study suggest that adoption of evidence-based policies to address fatigue is both limited and variable depending on the policy. And then it said organizational leaders and nurses must create a shared vision to address fatigue through increased monitoring and reporting of fatigue to show a compelling case for adoption of evidence-based policies as a foundation for the implementation of FRMS. And then they also said that more research is needed, which is what I said earlier. So the first recommendation they had was that data collection should be monitored regularly within the hospital. So these hospitals should constantly be getting data on like how much the nurses are fatigued and what kind of shifts they're working. And the second recommendation was organizations should complete a gap analysis between evidence-based recommendations and current organizational policies and practices, and consider using change frameworks to guide implementation. So it's pretty much saying that these hospitals and organizations need to come up with a plan pretty much of how they're going to address it. And that plan should include evidence-based policies. And then the third recommendation they say is leaders should strategically create a shared vision. So that means these leaders in these hospitals, nurse leaders, administration, executives should all come together and try to figure out how to solve the problem in their specific hospital. And the fourth recommendation they had was learnings from within organizations across the healthcare system should be shared through dissemination strategies. So pretty much if one hospital collects information, they should, and it's helpful, then they should share that information with other hospitals or publish it, is what they're pretty much saying. So that's pretty much all of their recommendations. Describe why the results can or cannot be applied to my own patient/situation. This can apply to me because I'll be working with nurses and I can help implement these strategies. I can be one of those leaders working with the nurse leaders to help come up with a strategy to reduce nurse fatigue and help patient care. And then the last thing is conclude with your own decision of the utility of the study in your practice. And in my future practice, I will help implement strategies like these to mitigate fatigue in my future practice, because I don't want to be working with nurses who, they're fatigued, and because of that, they're irritable or they're making mistakes. They're not, easy to talk to. And we all get that way, if we're working 12 plus hour shifts and it's late at night. It's very easy to make mistakes and not do the right thing, pretty much. So in the future, I would like to work with administrations and other doctors and nurses to help with nurse fatigue, as well as resident fatigue and doctor fatigue as well. So that is it. Thank you so much.